All right, everyone, I think we're getting ready to start now. Thank you all so much for joining us here today in this conversation between James Jean, whose work you might have seen in the Giant Robot. If you haven't yet, you should check it out. And Eric Nakamura of Giant Robot. Y'all so clearly you guys, so I'm just gonna let them take it away.
Woo! Oh! It fell over.
No, it's already shaken.
Start the show like
Welcome everybody. That's a hot way to start.
what a mess.
Yeah, you've got Gene right there. Anyway, so welcome everybody. This is a kind of a rare, I would say still rare thing to have James Jean in public. He's always working and making a lot of art, and James has had a whirlwind of a year, I guess I would say. I mean, more than normal, maybe? I'm not sure.
So I guess 2 summers ago, that was probably the busiest time because I had 3 museum shows in China. Started out in, I think, Shanghai, and then went to Chengdu, and then Shenzhen. And then that show this summer went to Beijing at Today Art Museum, and it's going up until I think November. And I had an opening almost at the same time, concurrently at this place called CICA in Vancouver. So the CICA show was a group of all new paintings, which I did last year. And then that opened, I think, on Thursday, and then I had to fly out the next day to go to Beijing for the opening that weekend on Sunday. It was supposed to be Saturday, but we pushed it to Sunday. So yeah, it was pretty busy.
How did the 2 shows differ? It's rare, first off, for somebody to have 2 museum shows, I guess, on different sides of the world in the same weekend, I guess, starting on the same weekend.
Yeah.
And I guess, does that one count this one? I mean, this one's already here.
Yeah, no, it doesn't count this one. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the show called Metal Lark at CICA is all brand new work, and the show in China is almost like a retrospective of the last 24 years of work. So it goes through my sketchbooks up until my paintings, and then sculptures and animations, and each show contains new work as I make it. So each show is kind of a little bit different, and also the spaces are really different. The museums in China are all designed by interesting architects, and the spaces range from being really huge to slightly smaller, so we have to adapt the shows to each space as well. So Today Art Museum, we were actually able to fit all the large paintings into one room, which was impossible before. And we were able to include a lot of the big sculptures as well, so the 3-meter tall sculptures.
So usually for an exhibition, I go. But for this, and your friends go. There's like a group that'll go, and it's just we're basically following James around the world. This one in China, I don't know. Like did anyone go? Did any of us go?
No one went. It was the first time. So no, you're right. In 2018, I did a show at Kaikenkiki Gallery in Tokyo, and everyone was very excited to go to Japan. And then after that, 2019, I did my first big museum show in the Lotte Museum of Art, and everyone went to that as well, and that was really momentous, being my first major museum show. And so that show was basically picked up and then kind of evolved into these China shows. And then COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
So that was really difficult. I had a show, another museum show in Seoul at the Hai Museum. It was a collaboration show with BTS. Unfortunately, no one went to that show because of COVID, but they've since started touring that work around a little bit. And then the China show started. So China's difficult. There's a little bit of a barrier. Now there's no direct flights between LA and Shanghai, for instance. There used to be. Yeah, there used to be, but I think especially earlier, I think around 2 years ago, the COVID protocols were really difficult to travel was hard. People were still, Western artists were still having shows in China, but you had to quarantine for like a month in order to have a show. So, because say if you arrived in Hong Kong, you'd have to quarantine. If you had to travel to another city, you have to quarantine again. It was really difficult. So I didn't do that. So I tried to avoid doing that. And then the first show in Shanghai, I actually couldn't go at all. Yeah. So that was sad. Yeah. I actually did I even. I don't think I went to that show. Yeah, I didn't see that show at all. The whole show, just passed me by.
I think one thing I noticed about the exhibitions, maybe compared to even the Vancouver one, is just the scale of the shows in Asia. The one I went to in Korea was, massive. It's a whole floor of a building that if you stretched it out, it might be like a city block long, perhaps, or something. If you stretched out all the art, it was like a massive show. And then I'm looking at all the images of the ones in China, and they too look massive. They're skinning buildings, like the outsides of buildings for you. It's amazing. And I don't know if that's in that video. If it is, we could show a video.
Yeah, so we could show the video
it is-
trailer of the current show.
The scale is always amazing to me. I'm not used to seeing shows like that.
Yep, there we go. So this is the trailer for the current show. Actually, it's a walkthrough, so it goes through the entire show. Yeah, so it starts out with my sketchbooks. We could probably turn off the audio. I could probably talk through it. So that's temp audio. This is not a final video, so you guys get a preview. So yeah, we show a lot of my original drawings, my sketches, and my color studies for all my paintings, because I really enjoy showing the process behind the works. And we also have a large room with a lot of the time lapses that I've recorded over the years of me working. It's just pretty crazy to see me creating all these pieces all at once. In that room. And then we borrowed a lot of works from collectors for the show. So this is a new painting, the last painting I had done before the show started. This album cover for Lin, who's a very famous Chinese singer-songwriter. We go through a lot of the paintings, and then there's an animation section where I've turned the sculptures into animations because I have that CG data, and then I also create different versions of the sculptures in different materials like wood, bronze, stained glass sculpture here that I did with Judson Studios in Pasadena. And these are the 3-meter tall sculptures made out of steel, stainless steel. And that's a new rug, Year of the Dragon tapestry. And this is the room with one of my new sculptures here in the middle called Spring, and then a lot of the large format, large scale sculptures paintings that are range from like 11 by 45 feet to like 10 by 30 feet. And so the canvases actually fold in half so that they can fit through the doorways. And so that's the latest show, Eternal Spiral 4 in Beijing.
Wow, that was a fast 2-minute walk-around. So what are you working on these days?
Good question.
Because I know you're extremely busy, and even for today you're busy, so I'm just kind of wondering.
Today's super busy.
Yeah.
Some things I can't really talk about yet.
I hate when people say that.
I'm like thinking, should I
Yes.
tease?
Right? Shouldn't you tell us?
Yeah!
A little bit? Okay. There you go, now you have to.
Let's see. Well, I just did a fun little project with one of the film directors I had collaborated with in the past. So I just finished that.
Okay, that's pretty big. I mean, so was it 2 years ago? James did 3 movie posters. One Guillermo del Toro, the Daniels, and
Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, Darren Aronofsky, and all 3 of those won Oscars, which is amazing. So he should get an Oscar for that. Got movie poster, 3 of them in 1 year. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's weird, right?
It's a very strange, lucky, coincidence.
Yeah, it's like all 3 movies win an Oscar, and it's his poster. So.
Yeah, I love it. It was kind of funny that the movie posters keep coming up because it's not something I ever intended on doing, and I haven't done that many, to be honest. Right? Like I first started doing them in I think 2017. It was the same directors, Guillermo and Darren, and they asked me at the same time. It's just another coincidence. And then I did another poster for Blade Runner, but that was mainly through Warner Brothers, so it's mainly through an agency. But I do prefer working directly with the directors.
One was The Whale. That was it, right? Was it
Yes,
The Whale?
The Whale.
I misspoke on one of them, right?
Maybe, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 years later, Darren and Guillermo asked me again at the same time to do posters. It was just like another strange coincidence. And then actually I said no to Pinocchio and The Whale initially. But then, various things happened where, they came back to me with Pinocchio. My initial reservations were that there were 2 other Pinocchio movies happening that year.
Tom Hanks, right?
I think it was that, the Disney one, and then there was the Lionsgate one with Pauly Shore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then
You picked the right one.
And so I was unsure. It's like, oh, there's going to be 3 Pinocchio movies coming out one year. Like, I don't know if that's going to, affect what I do. And then, with The Whale, that's a very challenging film. But then I was, initially kind of turned it down, and then I was watching the Renaissance, right? Brendan Fraser's kind of a comeback story, and actually, Darren had showed me that A24 had commissioned a bunch of different posters for The Whale, and it was really difficult for them to find the right approach because it's a very challenging film. And I've seen at least like 5 different finished posters for it, like illustrated posters, and then I just had this idea pop in my head. Well, I would love to kind of take inspiration from like Lucian Freud and this other famous piece by Kiki Smith. It's like kind of a flattened face. I forget the title of the piece, but I wanted to kind of like merge those 2 influences into like a very simple ink drawing, like a very elegant, like simple ink drawing. And I told Darren, hey, can I give this a shot? Like, it wouldn't take that long, and if you don't like it, that's totally fine. And then we went for it. So it's like almost at the tail end, because up until that point, they had never released an image or a poster for that movie, and it was kind of a joke on the internet that it was like the one frame movie, because the only image that they released was like this one like frame of Brendan Fraser's face from that movie, and that was the only marketing image that they had released. So. Luckily, they accepted my poster.
So we still don't know which director it is you're working with on another project, but okay. What else are you working on? Wait, are these in the slides by any chance? The things?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Wait.
I wasn't, since this talk was so last minute, I just threw together a bunch of things.
Well, let's just show slides because people,
So that's my studio. This was when I was working on those large paintings for my first solo museum show in Korea. The slide previous was actually all the work I'd done for BTS. So you can see each member, they're kind of loosely inspired by each member. They're not like literal portraits, but kind of more, taking elements of their personalities and the lore that's kind of developed over the years about them. And we can move on to the next slide. Again, this is my studio. So this painting is about 10 by 30 feet, 3 panels, and it's kind of featuring like the 3 fates. And there's various narrative elements in it. There's like the character to the left kind of looks like a kappa, right? And would explain what a kappa is.
It's a yokai. I don't know. Japanese yokai. It's this mythical monster.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like an amphibious monster with a well in its head that's filled with water.
Is that little piece of paper on the floor just a color study, or is that just?
Yeah, that's the color study on the floor. Yeah. We can move on to the next slide. This is me actually working in Eric's studio. So I didn't have enough room in my studio to make all these paintings. So Eric at the time had just finished renovating an addition to his house.
That made it just taller than yours and bigger than yours. That's on purpose.
Yeah, the ceilings were like just like a foot taller, but
Anything to beat James is the only time ever. So.
Yeah, so the largest paintings in the series were done in Eric's studio, and while it was still kind of like barely just being finished, like the bathroom wasn't finished yet, right? But it was empty and clear, and yeah, for the whole year he let me use the space to create these giant mural-sized paintings. And this painting is called Stampede, and it's kind of referencing like there's a Italian Jesuit painter called Giuseppe Castiglione. He was a court painter in the Qing dynasty, and so he was famous for combining Western rendering techniques with Chinese silk scroll painting, and he was very influential, and he created a painting called 100 Horses. And so that's the inspiration behind this work, and kind of also combined with some drawings of horses by Leonardo da Vinci.
How does it feel like scale-wise from making a, let's say, 4-foot by 5-foot painting to a 35-foot painting? Is it the same kind of, or is it just same and bigger, or is there just a whole different outlook toward it?
I think there's a lot more like physicality obviously involved. I do have to walk back a lot more to take a look at what I'm doing. But essentially that painting is just based on like a small tiny sketch. So everything I work on always begins with a small drawing. I don't know if that's the right approach or the best approach. Every artist is different. It's just how I kind of developed my work over the years. It's just always kind of figuring everything out in a small version and kind of blowing it up and trying to preserve the original energy in the drawing on the final piece. And actually, the drawing is always superior. The drawing is always the best. So I'm still like chasing that, like trying to figure out a way to kind of bring that small drawing to a larger scale in a more successful way. So yeah, there's definitely room for improvement there.
Is the idea to make, does it become more loose because it's bigger than a smaller work?
Well, actually, I feel like when it gets bigger, it gets too tight. Like it loses a lot of that momentum from the original drawing. So when I look at the sketch, I see like all the sketch lines and all the erasure marks, and that kind of contributes to the whole feeling of the piece, the energy of it and the spontaneity of it, and that gets lost as you blow it up and try to, perfect it. I guess we'll go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah, this is a stained glass piece I created with Justin Studios in 2019. This was the first structure that they had ever made in this way. I just had this idea to create a three-dimensional crystal sculpture, also for the museum show I did in Korea. This was my fourth collaboration with them. So every time we worked together, we kind of evolved the techniques with the pieces. I think through working with me, I had this frustration about why certain shapes couldn't be made. Like for example, like just a circle floating in the middle of a solid color. It was because all the pieces of glass are hand cut, right? And so if you try and cut a circle, the glass will break. And so I said, well, why don't we use a water jet? And so that means you need to digitize the artwork and kind of create a whole new workflow, and that kind of brought them down this whole other avenue of figuring out a new way to work with fused glass. And so with fused glass, you're able to cut different colored pieces of glass and put it in the kiln, and it all kind of melts and forms into one solid piece of glass. And this was kind of the next step beyond the three pieces we had done. And this contains some of the water jet cut fused glass pieces. You can see here this pattern is impossible to do by hand, but then a lot of stuff is still like hand painted, and there's still lead lines here. So it's interesting kind of combination of traditional and new techniques. We go to the next slide. This is a shot of my studio, I think in 17 or 18. This was before my show at Kaikai Kiki Gallery. You see there's a Shape of Water print sample there. And actually, some sketches for the stained glass pieces I had done with Justin Studios up here. And with this work, I started working in a much more precise and I don't know what you call it, like flat way for that show. I kind of developed this system of pre-mixing the colors and doing color studies and color coding. I'd never really done that before, but the work keeps kind of changing and evolving, and I have to keep developing new methods of working. We can go on to the next.
I think one question I have about that is, how much is your actual time kind of hashing out efficiency versus actually just making art? Because some of it seems like there's a lot of that set up so you can actually produce a lot of stuff.
I'm not as prolific, I think, as I could be, but I do have a lot of help,
It's not as much as you would think. You think there's like 10 people working for James. Frankly, there's not really. There's like one right now.
Well, there were two before.
Yeah, but it's just not much. You think there's 10. And him saying he's not prolific, people think he's very prolific. And I feel like he's very prolific. If you follow his Instagram, your Instagram, it's very prolific. So,
Yeah, but I actually don't make that many paintings a year. But in terms of the workflow, I do have help doing the flats in Photoshop or creating the color palette, and also mixing the paint. I have someone helping me mix the paint. So also the flat color fills, I have people helping me with that. But still, it can be kind of slow. But that allows me to kind of jump around and work on different projects, say some of the collaborations.
I still think you make more paintings than the average artist, even without making a lot of paintings.
No, because if you talk
Look right there. How many paintings are in the works at one time? That's crazy.
But actually, if you talk to a lot of the bigger artists out there, they're making 50, 70, 100 paintings a year. I think I'm only making 20 or 30 at the most, maybe, to 25.
All right, step it up, man.
Yeah, so this is one of the earlier pieces I've done with Jetson Studios. And I just love the surface quality of the glass, and even with the turtle shell, we built up the shell by layering 3 pieces of glass and kind of melting them together. And then we had them create a metal decorative element with the stars, with the constellations up top. That began collaboration that we're still working on today, which is called Pagoda, which is a stained glass dome that's ongoing. Hopefully will be finished by the end of the year.
But how tall is this? I still have trouble picturing the scale of this dome. I mean, I think you mentioned it, and I'm always thinking it's smaller than what it really is.
It's about 15 feet high.
So is that like this or higher?
It's higher. Yeah.
Okay.
It's higher than this. Yeah.
So it's a dome. Big ass
It's a dome, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next slide. I don't think I put a picture of that in here, but.
I think that's the last one.
That's the last one? No, that's the last one.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess.
So then, is it as wide as this room?
It's probably as wide as from that pillar to over there.
Yeah. So that's a massive.
So it's pretty big, but it's really revolutionary, engineering wise, because I wanted to make a glass shell sculpture. So I mean, people are very familiar with dome structures, just Buckminster Fuller, but I didn't like how thick the frame was, so I wanted to figure out a way to really minimize the frame. And so basically, with our dome, the glass is load bearing. The frame isn't load bearing. The frame is only meant to index the pieces together, so that the load is carried through the glass. So it's almost like pure. Well, it's not pure, but getting close to a pure glass structure. And so a lot of the engineers that were involved, and a lot of people that know about this project, they're really excited to see it finished, because no one has built anything like this before.
Where's this going to possibly go? And is there a projected date for it to be done even?
Projected date is probably in the spring, hopefully early spring. We've been working on it for 5 years, and as far as where it will go, we don't know yet, because it's tough.
If anyone has a spot, it's about as big as this room, but taller. So yeah. But you get to go inside of it, though.
Oh yeah, you can walk inside and basically be immersed and surrounded by the art.
It's amazing. Cool. I don't know if you wanted to, did you want to show some of your
Sketchbooks?
Yeah,
we could
this
try
is
that.
something because I realize I want to show you as much as I can because this is kind of rare. So James brought a couple of sketchbooks, and we'll talk through those too. And if you have questions, hold on to them. We'll get to those at some point soon.
Mind the speaker there.
It's okay.
Oh, they've got feedback suppressed built in.
I'll be over
How
here.
well it works.
So what year is these sketchbooks, James? This is kind of a treat because you don't really get to see his sketchbooks.
Yeah, I brought one from 1999, 2000. So I think I started this when I was 19 years old.
Sorry,
That's a little sketchbook. Isn't
That's
it?
awkward. Let's see if we can center it.
It's a little overexposed.
You could probably either lower it or raise it.
Maybe raise the table?
No. Book has to get raised or you got to lower that.
Can you move it?
There you go. Just a little. Even that'll, if it's in focus, there you go. Yeah. All right, that's all.
Want to see that already?
Yeah.
So we're getting a little feedback. Should I?
Yeah, just mind the speaker.
Okay, so yeah, this was a sketchbook I started when I was in art school, and after foundation year, they ingrained in us this habit of keeping a sketchbook, and actually my early sketchbooks were really horrible. But I wanted to kind of explore why I started art school in the first place, and that was because I really love drawing from imagination as well as trying to learn how to draw from life, and that's basically what this sketchbook is. So you'll see a lot of life drawings from class, then also drawings of people on the subway, because I'd have to take a commute from Brooklyn into Manhattan pretty much every day. And a lot of these drawings are done with ballpoint pen and colored pencil.
Wait, what year is this for you?
99 to 2000. This one might be 2000 to 2001 actually.
Like last year of art school?
This is kind of like the third year, like my
So you didn't bring the first year book?
junior year. The first year, no.
Okay.
Um,
That deserves a chuckle. It's so weird. No, this is
Yeah, it was pretty
impressive.
bad. It was pretty bad.
No, it's
This
impressive.
one is, getting closer to what's more, recognizable today of my work. So I toned the pages with acrylic, like various layers of color, to like create a ground for me to draw on. And I was just trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do. So there's like diary entries and drawings for imagination here. Basically taking things that would interest me from art history, and also various references I would find in the New York Public Library. These were various figure models from school.
This is all just kind of on your own, not part of class
No,
assignments.
definitely not part of class. This was all on my own. I mean, I just loved making work and sharing it as well. And so the sketchbook was a great way to kind of share the work and bring it around. And whenever I have any free time, I draw. And I think about that a lot now because with the smartphones, it actually robs you of a lot of time and energy. Because before we had smartphones, I just had the sketchbook and I'd just be constantly drawing in it. Maybe that's a habit I should pick up again. But I haven't really kept a sketchbook in a while.
Are you doing more digital, like drawing on an iPad type of thing? Or?
Yeah, I do more digitally now, and then also more focused on the painting. And so it's tougher for me to work in a sketchbook. I don't have as much free time to explore. I had a lot of commuting time, so I would draw a lot on the subways. It'd be like an hour commute. So this picture here is like the nightmare commute that I would have to go through.
So unlike on TikTok, there's a guy or person who draws people sitting there, right? And then he draws this amazing portrait and hands it to him. So your portraits are a little bit different.
I think mine are real. It's basically the difference. Or not staged.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, I had this fascination with drawing hands, so like you'll always see a lot of hand drawings. There's a little bit of racism I experienced in Brooklyn.
And what is the text in there? There's a lot of
Yeah, there's a lot of diary entries, just stuff that would happen during the day, or the endless grievances that I would have, just people.
So that's not really related to the art necessarily, or the drawings.
No, it's about art and life. Yeah, it's about being being a constantly alone and not knowing what I'm going to do with my life, and the typical stuff, right? These days I don't have that much angst anymore. now I'm like attending kids' birthday parties and things, just trying to keep my son on track. Like I came here from a kid's birthday party, so glad I made it on time. Yeah, no, it's just an interesting, phase of life, right? And
What were you doing with these? Like, I mean, were these including into your art? Because some of these are really like more surrealist.
Yeah, I don't know. The sketchbooks became its own thing, and they actually, helped me develop my visual vocabulary. The library of images that I could draw from. Yeah, because really in my early 20s, I had no idea what it was that I wanted to do, and I was just experimenting. Like this page here was something I developed a little bit later on. When I was younger, the sketchbooks actually got me more work than my actual portfolio. So, I would visit various places, and, they look through my finished paintings and things, and, my paintings at the time were very dark and, kind of strange. And, but then I'd show my sketchbook, and that would elicit, really passionate response. And the sketchbooks actually got me my first ongoing gig at DC Comics doing covers for Vertigo, for a book called Fables, and then Batgirl and Green Arrow and so on and so forth. So I did that for about 7 years, and that all came from the sketchbooks.
Can we move it just a little bit because it's in that blade of light?
there's a light right
Oh, just
we got light?
just move it a few more
exposed.
decided to show us.
Yeah, the light just kind of came through.
Okay. Oh, here's Eric. That's Eric. Well, speaking across the street at the theater with Daniel Wu.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I think my early sketchbooks became very precious, and then it almost became intimidating to work on each page. So as my sketchbooks evolved, this one's from 2008. I actually decided to not think purposely, just like let whatever was in front of me dictate what would happen on the page. So that's where these are good right there, right here. Yeah, that's where these drawings sort of come from. Where, yeah, it's almost like automatic drawing where actually these are just more regular figure drawings. But like say I have my friend in front of me and I'd just be drawing and just letting the lines overlap and letting various moments overlap. So each page is kind of interesting. Kind of lace work of different moments in time. And these are all done in ballpoint pen, so there's no erasing, there's kind of a permanence to the mark. And then I would just experiment and create more abstract types of mark making and just try different things. These pages are actually kind of thick because there's many layers of paint. And
what's it feel like to see these? I mean, does this inspire, or are you kind of like, or is it more memories? Or?
For me, it's more memory. Yeah, it's more memories of the time. I think it's very fulfilling to see like this container of. Oh, there's Eric again.
Oh my God. And I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah. Oh, I love this page actually. This spread I really like, and this would actually work great as a larger painting.
Is this era of the same as the painting that's in the gallery over there?
Yeah, that's around the same time. That's right. Yeah, this is also another one of my more favorite spreads. Again, I'd done all these figure drawings beneath, but then there's one that I really liked and I wanted to isolate, so then I just kind of painted black paint around and kind of created this like interesting, almost like montage of the different moments from the figure drawing session. And there's like colored pencil and acrylic and this interesting mix of elements. Yeah, again, I just had a lot more time back then to work on these sketchbooks, and I wasn't as distracted by the smartphone. I had a friend who's a master at doing shibari, Japanese rope tying, so I went to this event or demonstration. And I love drawing like ropes and knots, and that's like a recurring theme in the work, because the ropes kind of resemble like lines, and the idea of like the lines kind of describing space and entangling each other. Yeah, I don't think I could draw like this now, because this took like years and years of very consistent figure drawing, so the lines have this like fluidity that I don't think I have right now, like the way this hand is just so like loose and lively. It's again, it's just a different phase of my work in life. But everything kind of goes in circles, so I hope to kind of maybe return to this in the future. Yeah, there's another spread that I like. Different media. Yeah, I don't draw as much when I travel anymore for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I definitely don't have as much energy as I did when I was younger. But any chance I could get, I would just draw when I was just sitting down on an airplane or a bus or car even. Now I'm the one doing all the driving,
It's pretty rare to see all this. I don't know if I've ever seen this book in a long time. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did you draw that too?
No.
I was like, no.
Someone else
Okay.
kind of. Yeah. That's getting there to the end. Yep. I think that's
Really
it.
cool.
Yep.
Awesome. That's so cool to see. Love it. Does anyone have any questions? I guess we could open some up if anyone has anything. I'll start with you since you're.
Does that looking at these sketches take you back to that time in your life, that era?
I think the question is, do the sketches take you back to that time?
Yeah, for sure. The sketchbooks are like a time machine, definitely. And I don't have too many sketchbooks. I think a lot of people maybe have the impression that I have, tons and tons of notebooks. But actually, one of the more developed sketchbooks I'd done, I think this period between 2010 and 2015, it has like all these very obsessively detailed drawings. Like that book took 5 years to finish. It was like one moleskin. But a lot of those drawings actually I was able to develop into like larger pieces, and maybe we should move back into that chair. It's been so far.
I was wondering if drawing actually, because that drawing seems like it's kind of for fun, but is drawing now for work?
Yeah, kind of. Again, it's just a different phase of life, right? So that the stakes are kind of higher. More people are dependent on me. Recently I was able to spend some time with Yoshitomo Nara in Japan over the summer, and I think this was the third time I saw him, and the way he described his position in life now is that he doesn't worry about deadlines anymore. That's what he said. I don't need to worry about anything. I have enough. There's no deadlines. And he's like, you see this painting? I did this painting in 20 minutes. But it took me 2 weeks of waiting until I felt like I could make this one. So that's sort of this, the stage I would aspire to achieve down the line. But for right now, there's a lot I want to accomplish while I still can. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to do certain types of work or pursue certain opportunities. And, yeah, it's very different from the sketchbook types.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Huge fan, by the way.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
That's a Fables comic, just so you know. Yeah.
But so your work is like wildly imaginative and super beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about like your creative process and how you kind of come up with these concepts?
The question is about the creative process.
Well, with the Fables covers in particular, I always read the script beforehand. And at the time I would read the script, the interiors would not be done yet. So it was kind of all up to me to like kind of imagine what that world would look like. And going to art school, I was in the illustration department. So I was always very interested in the text and taking inspiration, key moments from the text and kind of just expanding it and turning it into my own visual vocabulary. So I think that training really helped me. And it still helps me to this day because I find that even though I don't work as much from text anymore, I find that I'm always asked to write about the work. And so it's kind of the opposite way now, where I'll create a body of work and then the curator or the museum will ask me just to, especially for like the audio guide, I'll have to write paragraphs about like each painting and what it means. And when I start out, I don't know what the work is about until I start writing. And then I see all these connections and all these references and then it all kind of becomes more clear that way. So a lot of it comes from, I guess, intuition, and then also like a lot of the art history and the things that are just influenced by from day-to-day life. Like it all kind of seeps in. I don't like consciously like put it in the work. It all kind of like comes out intuitively and spontaneously, and then it's only until after the work is finished when I kind of realize like where all that came from. Yeah, hope that answers your question.
Awesome. There was another one somewhere right around here. There you go.
I just have a quick question about your process. When you're scaling a smaller drawing onto the wall, what are you doing?
The question is how does James scale from a small drawing to a larger piece?
I use a projector, so aka cheating. Right? So I used to just use a regular projector. Now 4K projectors are pretty cheap, and so I've got a Epson 4K projector, and I'm sure there'll be an 8K one pretty soon. Sometimes it's not easy to scale things up if you're painting a wall or mural and there's like stuff in the way, like it'll cast a shadow. So you just have to. There's various tricks too if you're like painting a mural where sometimes people will draw like a squiggle on the wall and then you take a photo of it and then you can mock it up in Photoshop where you put your mock-up on top of that squiggle and then that squiggle will help you like indicate where everything's supposed to go. So there's like different techniques, but for the paintings, because they're just mostly done in a studio environment, I just use a projector. And, yeah, it's pretty accurate for the most part. I do wish it had like more precise detail. Even the 4K is not enough, so maybe 8K would be decent.
I do notice though that when you scale it up, are those lines? Can you talk about how the lines are? Are they just right, or do you have to actually change it once it scales up?
That goes back to like trying to recapture the original energy of the sketch. I think once it scales up, things obviously become like more detailed and thinner. So I am trying to like maintain the integrity of the line, but it does change. I think right now, like my line, as the paintings get bigger, they tend to get more delicate and more precise. So I'm still struggling with like trying to figure out how to reconcile those two impulses.
Oh, there's one back.
Yeah,
other mediums you haven't experienced yet was a question.
Yes.
Sorry.
I would love to try ceramics or do more sculpting in clay. For right now, a lot of my work is done with fabricators and and other parties like say Justin Studios. They they do all the glass, and I'm working with people now who create the sculptures out of steel and bronze, and I've done a little bit of animation, but I do love ceramics. We have like a collection of ceramics in the house. My wife likes to collect ceramics, and I love the quality of glazes and the colors, and actually sometimes I try and bring that into the painting, like the different layers and how the different colors kind of interact, and you see how the pigment kind of falls apart, and I love how natural that looks. And so yeah, I'd love to try and do that in the future.
There's one right here. Can you talk about the rugs? So there's rugs in his exhibition part. Yeah, talk about the rugs.
The rugs actually, they take some inspiration from my printmaking. So a lot of the prints that I do, we call them multi-process prints. So I've been collaborating with my printmaker, Brad Keach, since 2006. And he does this interesting thing where he combines commercial printing presses with fine art printmaking. And so with my prints, you'll see a lot of shallow relief. So we sculpt a die out of metal, and then we press that into the paper, and we create this kind of undulating surface. So that was the inspiration for the rugs. And so there's basically all the rugs are hand tufted, and then someone goes in with electric shears and kind of hand carves everything. So it is very sculptural at the end. It's very cool to be able to render like a flat drawing into something that's like very tactile.
Like, how many people here want to touch the rug? Yeah, right? How many of you have? Okay, none. Yeah, nobody's touched it. Right. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Your color palettes have such a distinct style. Do you feel like you're making those choices based on intuition, or do you feel like you're pulling from a certain art movement or influence when it comes to the color palette?
There's a question about his color palette, like where the inspiration comes from.
I think definitely they come from intuition. Earlier in my career, I would sometimes scan like certain printed pieces or ephemera that I would find that I would like, or download images from the internet, create palettes from them. But now with my color studies in Photoshop, I'll just go through the sliders and layer effects, and basically just like try to achieve a balance of color that really interests my eye, to create like a kind of vibration between the elements. So really it's just like constant noodling in Photoshop. And actually sometimes I also, and this is a little trick, again, it's kind of cheating, so don't tell anybody, but sometimes I'll export a JPEG onto my phone, and then I'll use like, do you guys know Visco, the SCO? So I'll load the image in there and I'll swipe through all the filters, and then if there's something that I like, then I'll put it back into Photoshop and like continue to like try to noodle around and try different things. So, and again, I also use like camera raw filter and go through the color grading and change things around, and I'll do some more drastic changes, like I do the curves and like invert all the colors and change all the layer effects. There's like 100 different things that I do in order to like find an unusual or interesting color palette, all those techniques kind of combined together kind of result in the colors that I'm using today.
Wow, I had no idea. There's one question here.
Would you be able to share a piece of advice that someone, perhaps a mentor, shared with you that helps you turn a corner?
So the question's, we call it maybe advice that you received from a mentor.
I think there are two pieces of advice I am reminded of sometimes. I think one is very practical in terms of making work, which is drawing when you paint and painting when you draw. And that was told to me by a fellow student actually when I was at SVA. when I was really struggling with oil painting, and the oil painting was really difficult. I couldn't really like nail down the figure. And this kid, he was actually his name's Nicholas Uribe. He's like a very kind of well-known oil painter on the internet. He has like YouTube and Instagram, and he's a really great teacher. And so that concept really blew my mind, because it's like, okay, oil painting is very atmospheric, but then what if you treated the brush as like a drawing tool instead? Or when you're drawing, you treat it as if you're painting. So when you're drawing, you kind of think about like drawing a contour, but then what if you treated the pencil as being able to create something that's more painterly or atmospheric? And that like kind of being able to travel between those two techniques really helped me like evolve my the way that I would see and the way that I would paint, and really kind of like help my painting coalesce. And the next piece of advice is like diligence over talent. So yeah, I think if you look at a lot of the artists who survive, it's all about diligence and like constantly just going at it, and being there, available, making yourself available for the work, every day, constantly just working at it. And yeah, for whatever reason, I've always been very diligent, just because I have a real love for making things and for just being creative. It's just so fulfilling. There's nothing I'd rather be doing. Actually, I had a meeting yesterday with like a fellow parent. They're asking me about my son's school, and then then we start talking, and they say, "Oh, so what do you do for fun?" And that's always like the worst question for me, because I'm like, I don't do anything for fun. I mean, I'm an artist. Like, this is just, I eat and breathe, this, right? And that's how I'm able to remain diligent after all these years. And talent, talent is elusive. That's something that's hard to quantify, and it's if you're able to kind of describe it and kind of capture in a bottle, like maybe then it'll be destroyed, because I almost feel like I don't want to know like where it comes from, and just let that intuitive part of the mind kind of come through on its own. So.
Cool. Shoot, on that, I think we're at 3 o'clock.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fast.
No, it's all good ones go fast. So there you go. Yeah. So everybody, give a big thanks for being here. Also, thank JANM for setting all this up, and his exhibition. Thank you. Good job.
All right. I did it. I said it all. Okay.